We're living in a time where people are more connected than ever, yet lonelier than ever. Everyone talks about the loneliness crisis, but no one really talks about how to make friends. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a self-help guru. I'm just someone who's been lucky enough to build deep, decade-long friendships. And I've learned that it's not magic, it's intention. This is Friendships Unplugged, where we stop scrolling and start talking. Real stories, real friendships, good laughs, insights, and no filters. Welcome and enjoy. Hello, Martin. Welcome to Friendships Unplugged.
Thank you for having me.
Well, as one of my very best friends, it was clear for me to have you in one of the early episodes. And thank you so much for being here. As you know, I wanted to found Friendships Unplugged because statistics show that 1 in 4 people feels lonely in these days. And to someone like us, this is hard to imagine because we are part of such a tightly knit friend circle. However, I can only imagine it's very horrible and it's close connected to mental health and things like depression and suicide rates and so on. So as we are so fortunate to have so many good friends, I felt it was my obligation to share some of these learnings with the world. And if we can only help a few people be brave enough and go out there and grab some of the benefits in finding friends, then the purpose of this podcast for me is already fulfilled. So this is the very first episode of Friendships Unplugged. My name is Iris. I'm the crazy person that had this idea to start this podcast. Your name is Martin. We are based in Switzerland, in my home, and we have been friends for many, many years, so somewhat 25 years or so. Would you like to describe from your perspective how we became friends?
Yes, I'm glad to. But first, I have to say, I'm excited and I feel very flattered and honored to be part of this because I think it's a brilliant project.
Thank you.
Yeah. To me, it's kind of typical how we became friends the night we met because you've been at work and to me, it was all leisure. You've been working in a pub where my then girlfriend was working and I was a regular there and was waiting for her. And you've been working there and kind of talked a bit. And then you mentioned you've been looking for a flatmate.
I had a spare room to fill. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it kind of happened pretty fast. We just, after you finished working, we went to another bar, had a little talk, and then you showed me the room. We went back to the bar. And after it was kind of sealed. And I never regretted it. So we shared a flat for a few years together. And ever since, you didn't get rid of me.
Yeah. And over time, 3 other guys joined our flat as well. So it was a very, very wild time. Lots of parties, lots of people go in and out of this apartment. Crazy, crazy things happening. We also tried every few months, we did an excursion with the whole group. So these were some really crazy stories when we, hiked up, being in Switzerland, hiked up a mountain to sleep in a hut somewhere on the top of the mountain. And of course, we had to bring 10,000 liters of beer with us because,
It's essential.
yes. And so we dragged all that beer up the mountain. And then in the night, we couldn't sleep because it was one of these huts where you sleep in the hay. So there were no beds and very rustic. And we slept in the hay and we heard the mice. And we were scared that the mice would eat our ears off in our sleep and so on. Yeah. Yeah.
Funny times, yeah. Would be enough material for hours and hours of podcasts.
Yeah, we spare you.
Yeah, bless.
Yeah. So what means friendship to you?
Well, actually, it's the most important, the best, and the most valuable thing in my life. Because in the best case, which I believe the two of us and many others do have, it's the most reliable form of a relationship you can have. Maybe even more than a romantic relationship or something. It's like chosen family, actually.
And how do you decide when someone is a friend? When is the point where you realize you have that very intimate closeness, versus, for example, an acquaintance or a colleague, to, hey, this is a person I can really let my hair down, I can be my true self around them, to the level of this intimacy that we have with one another and our close group of friends. Just earlier today, I was thinking, I don't think there is a single thing you guys don't know about me. I don't think there is a single thing that is of significance, good or bad,
Yeah.
that I haven't shared with you.
And it's scary though.
Yeah.
Just find it.
Yeah, it's not scary
Yeah,
because there
same with
is
me.
this cocoon of trust
Yeah.
that we all have. In the beginning, it's normal to have a bit of a facade when you meet new people. There's a certain image you maybe want to portray, a certain impression of you. But at some stage, all the silliness comes out, all the crazy idea, all the quirkiness, and so on. When is that point when you decide, I can now consider this person a friend and can be my true self?
I think it has a lot to do with that very important word that you mentioned, trust. If I feel I could trust this person is trustworthy. Well, I myself, I was a process over the years, but I'm not afraid to pretty soon show my true self. Because in a sense, what do I have to lose? Take it or leave it. And I think if the relationship grows, the friendship over some month, years probably, it's like I call it like milestones. If something happens that's not just fun, maybe some low points, maybe some hard stuff happening to me or the other one, and we can have our backs. That's to me like a proof that we care for each other. We have to have the feeling that we care, both of us. And yeah, if that happens, which well, luckily mostly does, that's for me at least the beginning of a friendship. And then it develops over the years, like the things you share together, adventures, fun, not so funny stuff and all that, it grows. But as a starting point, I have to feel safe and have the trust.
And as the famous saying goes, trust isn't born overnight, it grows. So, how is trust grown?
Well, I can only speak for myself. I wouldn't call it naive, but in a way, I do believe in people and the good in people. And before proven wrong, I believe the best.
You give them the benefit of the
Yeah,
doubt. Yeah.
yeah, right.
I'm the same.
And I have to say, I wasn't disappointed that much. Yeah.
Same. Yeah. And, how trust is built, to me, it's quite simple. It's people delivering actions on their words. Absolutely. To me, is what builds trust. And that doesn't mean people have to drop everything every time I need something or so, but it means if we agree on something, that people will do their best to live up to their word, that we treat each other's more vulnerable stories confidently, that we carry it in our hearts, that we treat that information sacred. One thing that I think about often, very often, is gossip. And I don't know where it's coming from. Probably it's a lot of upbringing. But for example, I grew up in a very small village, so there was a lot of gossip. So upbringing wise, I should have been a gossip queen, but I hate gossip. And I can't think of a friend that loves gossip or that gossips. And none of people
No,
in our
not
group
not
do.
not. That's true.
We only talk respectfully about people not being there behind their backs, and we still carry their interest with us. It's a lot about respect as well. So, how do people speak about you when you're not in the room, kind of thing?
Yeah.
So, for me, that's an important aspect as well. It's trust, it's respect, it's good intention. I mean, we all mess up at times, right? We say things we shouldn't, or we struggle to manage our emotions maybe at times, but it's that people take accountability and responsibility for their actions and sayings, but also that they're being met with an understanding that this is still coming from a good place. Even good people can mess up at times.
Yeah, of course. Of course. It's no black and white. Not at all. Yeah, you drop all the right words because respect, that's another very important one. To me personally, gossip is kind of boring.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah. Get a
it doesn't
life.
make no sense
Yeah.
to me. And I think it has to do something with like competition. You have to be superior or something.
Yeah, probably.
And I think that's a quality of our friendship and the whole group, that we're not in a competition with each other. If so, then in a good way and in a
Yeah.
fun way, and to develop together, but not in like a I'm better than you way.
That is very true. We definitely help each other grow. We challenge one another intellectually and emotionally and sometimes physically. I remember when the Fitbits came up some years ago, and Manu and I had a Fitbit challenge, and every evening after work we would just go walk around for 3 hours to beat one another's steps. But it was very friendly. And
It's always to make the both of you grow, the
yes,
both of us. It's
absolutely.
not a challenge in like I'm better than
No,
it's
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
we grow together.
And also, we're all quite different in our close friendship group. And rather than these differences being an issue, I feel they really teach us things. They teach us new perspectives. They teach us to, hey, maybe there is a different way of solving problems and so on. Right?
Yeah, we kind of embrace the difference.
Yes.
It was a learning process. It wasn't like that from the beginning to me, because at a certain point where some differences appear, you have to decide, what do I do about it? Do I disagree and say, sorry, we can't find common ground, or do I listen and okay, maybe that's another point of view that I think about it. And mostly, I think almost all the time we do this. Just kind of there's a value in this. It makes you grow. If you're
Yeah.
always in your comfort zone, you're not going to grow.
Exactly. You're not hearing new things or
Yeah. And
viewpoints.
even in that like microcosmos of our group of friends, we're challenging each other.
But it's always with that empathy in mind.
Yep.
Right? Even if there's different opinions and if there's friction, you kind of go empathy first, knowing that we trust this person as a whole with the values and everything. So even if they say something that may confuse us or be atypical, you kind of listen with curiosity to learn and understand.
I think if that happens, that you at first disagree, what we do or what I'm trying to do is ask to understand better what are the reasons, what's behind all this. It's just like in the first place, we disagree. I cannot handle this.
There's very little defensiveness among us.
Yes, yes.
Very open to feedback and to ideas, inputs to develop further and learn and reflect.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but when we met 25 years or whatever ago, we were
Like
young and rosy cheeked. And back then, you were in your 20s, and that age is still where you care very much about your external facade. So you care so very much about what others, strangers, think of you. You want to be cool. You want to be, especially as a guy, you want to be tough. You want to be this bad boy image, maybe. As you know, I have a lot of male friends, but you were the only one back then that already within your male friend circle had deep conversations about things like feelings and openly shared problems, gathering feedback on how to deal with certain things. Most male friends are now on the same page where we can have these open conversations, but back then it was a big no-go, right? You had to be cool and distant and whatnot. And thinking back, you always, since I know you, you had this very deep, real conversations and were able to share in a vulnerable space.
Yeah, there are some things that add to this. I was lucky enough that my parents told me, and the living example to do so, also my dad. And then I didn't really ask myself how come till tonight ask me this question, but the friends that are still part of my life, I have for now like 35 years. So, and even then, it wasn't really a question. It's just, it happened naturally. We were all on the same page in a way. Why this happened? I have no answer right now, but it wasn't a privilege of myself. It was the whole team that were kind of the same spirit, shared it. And maybe it was a sign of the times. Maybe it was just a good times. These were the 90s, and that toxic masculinity and all that alpha male bullshit, if I may say so, and all that just was really far away. I was told by my parents, I was brought up by the ideals of the late 60s, the 70s, like feminism and all that stuff. And it was just, it got to me. There was no doubt about it. And it was quite shocking later on in recent years, actually, what's happened. What? That's kind of weird. So it felt very natural. It wasn't an effort to do so.
It wasn't
It
a
was like,
conscious decision.
yeah, and feelings and soft skills and however you want to call it wasn't necessarily a female thing then.
And I feel that's especially important to our male younger listeners. With all the developments going on, I think it was a study in the UK that showed how dramatically male suicide rates still climb. And I feel this is what it comes down to, right? Maybe disattach from that perception that talking about feelings and emotions and problems is a bad thing, right? We can be, I would argue, we are both, well, matter of fact, all the people in our group were very strong people. And yet we have no problem letting the hair down and admit when we struggle.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a healthy thing, such an important thing to be able to share that with someone, to share a struggle, to ask for help, to be honest, to not always have the answers to everything ready. And then, of course, the flip side as well, to have people to share good news with and that are genuinely happy for you. Right? There's no jealousy, there's just support and genuine happiness.
Yeah, that's. I think it has to do with your picture of masculinity. What does that include? And I was lucky enough with you and the friends, my female friends especially, that could still be the boy and later the man. Just all that boy stuff. It wasn't judged. So it's not like I'm not being an ass and an alpha male, a fake alpha male, and all that. You name it, like that Andrew Tate stuff. So there was no disrespect for the, let's call it the male stuff, which made it probably easier for me. That it was no contradiction. Being emotional, being vulnerable, as we all are.
But also goofy and doing a lot of mayhem. And
yeah, absolutely. And the typical boy stuff, like, I don't know, sports, cars, the stupid action movies. Never was like judged for this by my female friend.
you didn't judge us either for typical girly stuff, or vice versa. If you did typical girly stuff,
I wasn't judged either.
exactly, or I did typical male stuff, buying a Mustang, or when you had your phase where you always took bath with patchouli oil.
Patchouli. But it was a no-brainer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Back then, there was a time, I think we even talked about this, when career-wise, you had to stand your ground and all that, which is, you would say is kind of male stuff, but it never came to our minds that it is to gender.
No. I think even having this conversation now feels a bit weird to classify a typical male but female. But I think it actually is important, especially in today's time, when there seems to be, the feminism has made great progress until recently. Sadly, some decisions taken over in America, which are really shocking. But there is also a lot said about the young men struggles to find their role in life, with the women now being more and more educated and independent and business driven, and the men, they are told what not to be toxic male. But then, and I do get that actually, it's like, what do we have to be then? Like, we understand how not to be a man, but world, help us. How are we then a man? What does that entail? And I think that's a crucial topic, and I'm glad subject matter experts start to talk about this now more and more, because I think there's a tight connection to male loneliness and suicide rates.
Absolutely.
And hopefully what we can add with this podcast is male, female, it doesn't matter who your friends are. You can build strong friendship bonds. You can build trust. You can have a lot of fun, crazy moments together. And it doesn't matter what gender or flavor, so to say, that the body has that carries those characteristics and values. It's the characters and the values that we fall in love with people.
Absolutely, yeah. But I think it's helpful if you have the ability to disconnect the flavor of the body, as you call it. And in the end, it's core values, right? Yeah. I think that was never such a big subject in our friendship or even in our group, this whole gender stuff. That's a sign of the times to me.
Yeah.
I must admit, it makes me think what happens right now. Even I'm at the age of 50 and I still think, what does society want for me to be or not to be? It's not all that important as in my 20s, of course, but I just like to think about it. And if I imagine, which is kind of hard. But if I imagine I was half my age, it would be such a struggle. And I'm so lucky that I didn't have to go through this.
I think it's hard because despite this being the time when the most ever information is out there, it's complete overload.
It's also even the most disinformation.
Yeah, also. And it's such a struggle, I think, to navigate all these narratives. And I am glad that we are the generation that grew up before the internet.
Yep.
And yet we were young enough to still get our hang around the internet and all the technology tools and stuff, but we still grew up with, you know, having to, I don't know, simple things as when you said you're going to meet at the train station with your friends at 7 o'clock, you had to be there at 7. Otherwise, they left without you. There's no phones, no mobile phones that you can reach them. You just have to make it work somehow.
You sound like a really old people right now, but that's what happened.
I remember when I was 12, 13, it was this thing to, in the evening, call your friends for hours. And the phone bill was massive. And I would call my close friends, the ones you know, that I already had during the early school years. I would call them for hours.
And it wasn't a cell phone, it was on the wall, and you had to
landline.
stay there for hours.
We were sitting on the kitchen floor with that phone by our ears for hours.
With no picture at all.
No, exactly, no pictures. And parents would be super upset about the high phone bills the next month and so on. I'm glad we got to experience those times because it just feels, we learned that a friendship is two people making an effort to connect. And it's that making an effort, I feel, especially now, people are not enough educated about. Because think about it, we're now trained to consume, right? We look at our screen, we have the headphones on, we consume. We're not really trained anymore to give back, to make an effort, to have that bi-directional dynamic.
Yep, that's true.
Right? And I feel that's so crucial because without that, you can't have a friendship.
Yeah. You have a point. Yeah.
Coming back to our specific friendship, if I weren't in your life, what would be different?
Simply put, my whole life. It's truly, you are one of these persons that has the most impact on my life. Mostly in a good way. Almost all the time in a good way. But no, it's just, since I do know you for literally half my life, through stories, hours and hours. Honestly, I can't even imagine that scenario. I definitely wouldn't be the same person. Maybe in some way or the other, there would have been kind of substitutes, but it's not the real deal. And that's not just to flatter you or to make this extra cheesy. It's a matter of fact. But as I said, friends are chosen family, and it's no secret. You are actually really, really, really important in my life.
So are you. And I feel bad now because I didn't intend for this question to take this direction. But likewise, thank you.
Please don't feel bad. It's just
I guess what I was targeting at is more, there's this saying, you have the friend that loves art. So if you want to go to a museum, you have that person you go to a museum with. So we all have different personalities, right? For example, if I have to organize something, I know who to go to, who is super organized and so on. So I guess that was more it was a loaded question. Apologies for that. So what I was after is what set of traits would be missing if this friendship wouldn't be there?
I'm not sure if I can get really more specific, because the kind of magic that happens between us is essential for it's the both of it. You can be crazy as fuck and still be the most reasonable person I know. It's that with
Mm.
it's that it's no contradiction. Again,
Mm.
you have a lot of energy and you put a lot of effort into stuff that's important to you. You bring stuff into my life that probably I wouldn't get in touch with if it wasn't for you. Not only people, mostly people, but also like subjects. Or did you ever think about challenging questions and all that? Probably that's the one quality about you that makes most remarkable.
And I drag you to different geographic places you probably wouldn't normally go to.
How could I forget?
No.
That's the biggest blessing after all.
We
So
have a
true.
big trip coming up in 2 weeks
Yeah.
where we, together with my partner, the three of us, we go to Goodwood Revival Festival in the UK, and then we tour Scotland for a week by camper van, and we are all super excited about that.
Yes, we are. I mean, just mention this: the three of us, you and your partner, and it's possible, and it's going to be fun, and no hard feelings about it.
Yeah.
Just that's, to me, still after 25 years or more, is remarkable.
Yes, and it was the same. That actually is whenever one of us had a new partner, that was a bit of a critical moment. Like, is there going to be maybe jealousy or even insecurity? Like, how close we are, and is this going to be a problem or so? And because we have, in fact, like a brother and sister dynamic.
Yeah.
We speak several times a week. We see each other all the time together with the others. There is such a high level of trust. It would only be fair if people have
Understand?
questions
Yeah.
about it in the
I would
beginning, right?
not
Yeah,
judge if someone
yeah,
had some
yeah,
issues with
yeah,
that.
yeah. But I'm so glad that Danny, my partner's name, is fine. Not only is he fine with all my friends, male and female, but he is in love with you guys as well. And I'm in love with his friends after these years.
Yeah.
They are a fantastic group
It's a
of people
blessing.
as well. And our groups, our collective groups really have merged together, which I think is a beautiful thing.
That's
A
so
beautiful thing.
fascinating.
Yeah.
The circle grows naturally.
So, is there anything that you feel we need to add to the discussion about friendship?
If I think about the struggles one can have to build friendship, I'm lucky. I really can say I didn't. I still don't have. I can by now attach to people, not in a naive way, but first of all, it's gonna be fine, and then prove me wrong. And if I'm wrong, okay, I go on. But mm, maybe the do's and don'ts
Mm-hmm.
in a way that I would like to share with our listeners. Someone said, "Mind is like an umbrella; it only works if it's open." And I think that's number one.
Oh, I've never heard that
Try
saying.
to stay open-minded. I think that's something we all
Yeah.
all our friends have in
Yeah.
common, and
Yeah.
that's why it works. I mean, there are some few, very few absolute no-goes, and you have to be sure about that. You can't be racist, you can't be homophobic, and but it's not that many. And if you don't agree in first place completely with a person, there's no reason to just say, "Ah, sorry, I'm out." That's the comfort zone I
Yeah.
mentioned. Like
Needs to be
thing,
friction and finding one another, right?
we still have friction, and all of my friends and I have occasionally friction, but still, I think it's essential to have friction
Yeah,
because you
it's
grow.
important. Exactly.
At a certain
Yeah.
point,
Mm.
you disagree and you
Mm.
agree to disagree, and
Yeah.
then you go on.
And then maybe you think about the conversation and come back to the same conversation with some new insights or
Yeah,
learnings or new thoughts that you bring. Friction is I feel it's crucial to growing as a person.
And there can be friendships that split up, but luckily there have been very few that I had to face this.
Yeah, same.
You don't have to agree 100%. There has to be some common ground, but that's enough. I think that's also a crucial point.
And then there is this dark triad traits from psychology. I don't know if you know them. I think they are narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellism. So, yeah, if you're listening to this, thinking about going out there to look for friends, watch out for these traits, because these traits you definitely don't want to have in your friend circles. It's manipulation, it's very messed up dynamics that you don't want to have, and you can't change these people. So read about these three and stay away from people like that, for sure. So you spoke about the do's and the don'ts. What are do's?
Well, first of all, believe in the good in people and trust people till they prove you wrong. Maybe it's kind of risky, but there's no life without risk.
And as you said, you've been disappointed very few times, and I can totally echo that. Yes, there is a risk. People take advantage of you, but I have had so little experience with people taking advantage of that. Compared maybe 2-3% of bad experiences, where the other experiences were so rewarding.
It even sounds hard to believe to me, but if you think about it, that's the truth. Because if someone wants to stay with you and in your life and build a friendship, they put effort in there.
Exactly. So what's another do?
Let your pants down, be vulnerable, show your true self.
We don't say that
There's
in
no-
English. I sometimes make the same mistake. So in Switzerland we say,
We confuse people with by saying
it's
this.
basically like open your kimono or let your hair down,
Let
not let your
down.
pants down.
Okay.
No, I love
You
it.
live and learn.
I mix it up all the time myself.
Oh,
Okay,
bless.
so be vulnerable.
Because I think
dare
there's
to
no
be-
alternative. If you want to be seen
Yeah.
with all your facets, you have to.
Yeah, dare to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right. It's about being brave.
Yeah. Because there's a lot to win and not that much to lose.
Correct.
If someone is not honest and has no interest in a friendship with you, they will go anyway.
Exactly. What's another do?
Make a certain kind of effort, stay in touch, be interested, honestly interested, listen, dialogue, and respect. And it all comes so naturally. Like it's natural to me, but
it's hard to think about it.
but do it
Yeah.
consciously.
Yeah. What are don'ts?
Well, look out for the red flags. Not in a way that you should get paranoid, but really know your worth.
Absolutely, it's important not to be paranoid, but I just listened to a podcast the other day where a leading psychologist that researches narcissism, she said that every sixth person is believed to be high, as in like above average, as in clinically narcissistic. And so that means, or no, clinically is the wrong word, but like it can be regarded as a narcissistic personality.
Okay, because there's a certain amount of narcissism in all of us.
I mean, 1 in 6 is very high, right? So be mindful, because that is relationships that will hurt you in the long run, because these people, they're only in for themselves. They're gonna suck you dry of your energy, of your love, of your kindness, of your good heart. But if you pay attention to these traits, there's so many genuine people out there that are excited to meet new people and are willing to also be vulnerable and brave.
And again, it's no contradiction. Being open and just look out. It can't be a one-way story. The attention and the advice and the questions and how do you feel and how do you feel and all that. It has to be equal. Equality is an important thing.
If I were to ask you, what's the craziest thing you've ever done for a friend?
That's not an easy question. I must have been back in the days when we shared a flat, and a friend called me in the middle of the night, or actually like 5 o'clock in the morning, and said, "I'm done with the world. I'm through with it. I had it." And I took it quite seriously.
But
I
was he
was,
serious?
well,
But it didn't matter. It could have been
I
that he was serious. So
exactly. The point is,
yeah,
I took it very serious. At the time, I knew the guy for 15 years or so, and to me, it sounded kind of serious. So I ran, since I'm a pedestrian, for, oh, well, it must have been like 5 kilometers or something in the morning, in the midst of the night. It was, I think it was like fall, and it was pretty dark. And I jumped out of bed in my pants and then just like, fuck, don't do it. Let's talk about it. I was late for work and all that. And it's just prioritized
mm,
this.
mm.
And then when I came there, he was all, oh, well, I was just pissed. I'm drunk and I'm going to sleep right now. And it's just, fuck, did I overreact that much? And in retrospective, I still think, no, probably if I wouldn't have taken it that serious, who knows?
Yeah,
It was all right for me.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy because after all, but I do think when he called me, he was really in pain.
Mm. Right.
So
So
that's enough for me
yeah,
to be there as
yeah,
a friend.
yeah,
If it's not that bad,
yeah,
well, fine with me.
yeah.
May I ask you the same question?
Well, I think it's the usual things. As you say, you go and pick up your friend in the middle of the night. So we're laughing because one of our dogs has just joined us here. For the people who also see the video, they can see this is Elmo. Say hi, Elmo. So yeah, the usual, you have to go and pick up people in the middle of the night because they're drunk, or I remember
Let's agree on
dramatically burning pictures of
oh.
ex-boyfriends with a girlfriend, holding her crying.
I was just about to ask, was there any really special location or occasion or something?
There's been so many things. I think probably money and distance wise, the craziest thing I've done was when my friend who lived in Canada, in Toronto at the time, she had her first baby, and I was on my way to conference in Las Vegas anyway, and she gave birth. So I rescheduled my flight to fly via
Oh.
Toronto to show up in minus 20 degrees or whatnot with the biggest teddy bear I could find as a surprise. And I stayed for 2 days helping her with the newborn, even though I don't have a lot of experience, but I could help her clean the apartment and so on. So, yeah.
That's quite a different level of effort compared to the story I told, but that's
Well,
typical you. That doesn't have to be the benchmark, but
yeah,
that's so typical.
yeah. So, coming to an end, speaking to our listeners, is there any last piece of advice you want to give people out there that may feel lonely, that may struggle making friends, that may think, oh, I'm fine, I don't need friends, I'm actually fine?
Hmm. Be honest to yourself. There's no better thing than a working, good, deep friendship. And mm, be honest, be vulnerable. Really, it's worth the effort. And it may be scary at first, but it's so rewarding.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. It was a real pleasure.
Thank
And
you.
I'm sure I'm going to have you back at some stage.
I'm looking forward already.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you like this content, follow the show and find us on social media. See you there.